Hey guys, it's Candace.
And it's Elena.
And you're listening to Cousins on Crime.
Why do I always, every time we say, and you're listening to Cousins on Crime, I do a little...
It's like we hear the music.
I do a little dance.
It's because we're like...
and there's no music.
But it's because we're getting into it.
Yeah, we're
getting right into it.
That's right.
How was your Monday?
It's good. It went by fast.
Oh, that's the best.
I know.
That is the best.
Well, it's because I was busy.
Busy. But that's the best, though.
Yeah.
Really.
Just, I got in my zone and I went off.
I know. I'd rather be busy than not. I think that's why I have so much on my plate, like by design.
Yeah.
Because I bore easily.
No, I totally see that about you.
Yeah.
And I've told you, you just give yourself too much to do.
I know.
But
I'm like, wait a minute. I've got a 30-minute window right here.
What can I put in there?
I could start a podcast.
Sounds about right.
Oh, my goodness. And why don't you start it with me, Lena? And I've been dragging you along for what?
And
3
then,
years nearly?
And then once we start, she's like, oh, maybe we can do this and we can add. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Let's become private investigators. Let's start a business.
And then we can do an extra episode on Patreon for other.
Yeah, I mean,
girl,
I'm wild. I am wild. I'm a wild time.
I just can't keep up with you.
I know. Well, I've got a very interesting case for you, and I would love to go ahead and get into it because I would love to know your thoughts.
Okay.
And if you've ever heard this story before. Before I go into the case today, I want to tell you a little story of my own. It does have a connection to today's case, though.
Okay.
So when I took the girls to school last Wednesday morning, I saw this car pulled over in the grassy median on a very busy intersection. I'll tell you which one after.
Okay.
So they don't track us down.
Right.
When I went back to pick them up that afternoon, it was still there. I noticed it. I was like, weird. Now, I don't know what they do in other countries or other states, but here in Texas, if you see a car on the side of the road, the first time you see it, chances are it has a bright orange sticker on it.
Oh, yeah.
Someone's already called it in. Someone's already reported it or done something with it. Or someone's called and said, my car broke down, and they'll put a sticker on it.
Right.
This car didn't have a sticker. So the next day, the girls didn't have school because it was Juneteenth. But I had to go over that way in the evening, and the car was still there.
Oh.
That evening. The Thursday evening. And
with no orange sticker.
And it hadn't been moved. It hadn't been adjusted or anything like that. Nothing was different. And it was still there Friday morning when I took the girls and Friday afternoon.
Okay.
When I picked them up from school. Still no sticker. And it was weird enough to me that I slowed down, like when I picked up the girls in the afternoon and I saw it for like the 5th or 6th, whatever time that was. I slowed down to see if I could see anything in the car that was of any value.
Anything odd.
Anything odd. And that's when I spotted something that made my stomach drop.
No. What?
Well, I'll tell you when I get to that part of the story.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Aren't I a good storyteller?
You are.
So today I'll be telling you the story about a young mother and her infant son who went missing without a trace. And to this day, we still don't know what happened to them. But their disappearance alone isn't what baffles me. When Bonnie Lee and Jeremy Dages never came home the night of April 28th, 1993, the sole person of interest seemed really obvious. But his home and vehicle were never thoroughly searched, and he was never charged with anything. It's been 3 decades since Bonnie Lee and her son went missing, and I want to know why, after all this time, we still know nothing more than we did 32 years ago. So, let's go through it together.
Okay.
Bonnie Lee Dages was born March 12th, 1975 in Lithia, Florida. She loved riding horses. I mean, from the time she could swing her leg over and mount that horse, she was on it.
Okay.
Her mom said, literally, from the time she could walk, she was riding horses.
I love it.
Bonnie was the oldest of 5 children born to her parents, Larry Dages and Linda Hirschberger. Just a quick little aside. Her mom, Linda Hirschberger, worked at McDonald's. How cool is that? Her last name.
That's
Hirschberger.
cute. Yeah.
That's so cool. I would totally advertise that. Anyways, one of Bonnie's little sisters said that growing up, they had the best childhood despite being in a really crowded house, 3-bedroom house with 5 kids and just enough money to get by. They didn't notice. They lived on 3 acres of land. They had horses and they spent their days just running around the property, using their imaginations like we did as a kid.
Right.
She wasn't a particularly interested student, like in elementary or young adolescent, but her mom said that when she neared the end of high school, she started talking about her future, and she seemed to really be excited and have lofty ambitions. She thought it would be kind of cool to be a doctor.
Oh.
Or maybe an artist or a musician. I mean, she could have done any of that.
You can be anything you want.
You can be anything that you want to be.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. But Bonnie got pregnant her senior year of high school. And whatever career plans that she was interested in, they'd have to wait a little bit. Since she was due in December, like months before graduation, she decided to just go ahead and get her GED. Because by the time she took off to have the baby, she would have all this stuff to make up. She wasn't going to graduate with her class anyways. It just made, she was adulting, right?
Okay.
She was already making
trying to
these
make a
adult
big girl
decisions,
okay, yeah.
right? So she was like, I'm going to go ahead and get my GED so I can get a job.
Yeah.
I've got a kid to support now. And you're probably wondering who the father was of this child. Nosy.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just you, because her family was wondering that too.
Oh.
There was this guy down the street that Bonnie used to ride her bike down and see, but we don't know his name because he's never been named by the family.
Oh.
I mean, they know who he is.
Okay.
But
they're like, you don't need to know.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't want to be a part of the baby's life. He was like, I'm 18 and I don't want to be a dad. So, and you know what? Bonnie was okay with it. And by default, her family had to be okay with it. They never pursued DNA testing or anything like that. So it's not like 100% certain who the father was.
Oh, okay.
But that was
speculated.
That was the understanding.
Okay.
Bonnie's son, Jeremy Dages, was born December 13th, 1992, and man, was Bonnie excited. I think a lot of 18-year-olds would freak out a little bit about having a baby at this time in their life when, they're just coming into so much independence and freedom.
Right.
But not Bonnie. I mean, it was this child that made her feel like her life was just beginning.
Oh, I love that.
Not that she was being held back in any way. The only real drag was that she was living in her parents' house. It was crowded, and she had just added a whole nother person to that already crowded space. Between her parents and her 4 siblings, she needed her own space.
Oh.
And I can't imagine how hard trying to do naps was like at that time.
Be quiet. Baby's sleeping.
I know. And I mean, her siblings were kids, you know, she was the oldest, 18, and her siblings were still
But hey,
kids.
I bet they were helping her.
They were. They really were. They were very helpful. So Bonnie's friend, Terry McKenzie, told her that her brother and his wife just had a baby. And his wife had recently broke her arm, and she was struggling to do like everyday things around the house, like the simplest things, like get the baby dressed. So arrangements were made for Bonnie to move in with this couple and be sort of like a nanny and watch their child. She took Jeremy. She, you know, it was like kismet. Yeah. So the Creech family provided her a place to live and a small salary, which wasn't much, but she didn't need much because, I mean, they were providing her a free place to live. But she felt a sense of independence, and she was still just 5 minutes away from her family if she ever needed anything. Bonnie enjoyed working for the Creeches by all accounts. She fit in seamlessly into their home, and having her new baby and a baby Creech in the house, I imagine they had a pretty good routine that functioned well for all of them.
Right.
Like sleep time, be quiet. Like
it wasn't as rowdy as the other place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything was coming up Bonnie. The once strained relationship she had with her dad in the past was on the mend. I mean, everything was working out.
Aww.
She had recently been leaning on him for advice even.
Aw. Good. Yeah, sometimes a little distance helps.
Yeah. And can we talk about her inheritance?
Oh?
Yeah. I knew that would make your ears perk up. When Bonnie's great-grandparents died, they left her $50,000, which was held in CDs until she turned 18.
Oh.
That would be like over $100,000 today, according to Google, which that sounds a little low to me, but I mean, it just seems like it would be worth more today. Anywho, it doesn't matter. That's a lot of money back in the 90s.
For an 18-year-old.
Heck yeah. Given that she was a new mom and no longer lived with her parents, she did need transportation. So the minute she turned 18, she took out some money to buy a car. But it was a pre-owned silver 1988 Dodge Caravan. She bought it from her mom's friend. She was sensible. It was like $2,000 or $3,000. She wasn't there to blow the money. She was smart about it. Oh, and she also inherited a 3-acre plot of land in Missouri that she talked about maybe doing something with someday, like a vacation home or even moving there.
That's so cool.
It's very cool. Things were really falling into place for Bonnie and her little boy in the spring of 1993, and then they vanished into thin air. Isn't it always like our victims' lives are just coming together?
I know. Yeah.
Isn't that the worst feeling? Like, or they were just starting their lives, or they were just getting into the swing of things.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And then they're just forgotten about.
Right. Well, we have a pretty good idea of Bonnie's movements leading up to her disappearance, but there are some really huge holes. The last day Bonnie's parents saw her was a couple days before she was actually last seen for good. So we know about like that time. So Bonnie's mom, Linda, got off her shift at McDonald's in the early afternoon that day. And when she got home, Bonnie and Jeremy were at her house. Yes, Bonnie had moved out, but she was over all the time. And she had brought her car for her siblings to help wash the car.
Oh my goodness.
And they probably thought she was so cool.
So cool.
Because she had a car. Remember when Tish got her car and we were like, oh, we get to ride in it.
Yeah.
But after catching a breath and probably a change of clothes, Linda took Bonnie's van and her sweet little grandbaby, Jeremy, to pick up Bonnie's little sister from a nearby ball field where she worked. Now, in the interest of the details, I will mention that there was no reason that Linda took Jeremy other than to just like show him off and pick her up, you know?
Okay.
There was no reason. She was just like, oh, okay, well, you hang out here. I'm going to take my grandbaby up there.
And she's giving Bonnie a
little break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they weren't gone long when Linda returned home. A short while later, Bonnie got in her van, and her and Jeremy went to visit a girlfriend on their way back to the Creeches. The girl ended up not being home, so they just went back to the Creeches.
Oh, okay.
But she did make a stop before she got there. April 29th, 1993, when the Creeches woke up that day, they realized Bonnie wasn't home. They had this deal with Bonnie that, like, you can, once Mr. Creech gets home, you can go do whatever you want to. Like, Mr. Creech would get home later in the evening. Mm-hmm. And so once he was home, she was off and she could do whatever she wanted.
Oh, okay.
Just be back by 8 a.m.
Oh, okay.
They would say. They didn't care. So when she didn't come home, they went over to her parents' house, which was just around the corner, looking for her. And they're like, well,
she's
her
supposed
dad,
to be on the clock, basically.
Her dad was like, she's not here. He called up McDonald's to see if his wife had seen Bonnie. She hadn't. So the Creeches were like, okay, well, if you hear from her, just let her know we're looking for her.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't mad. They were just like kind of confused and like,
why is she not?
Yeah, because Bonnie
she's been reliable this whole time.
She had been reliable. Exactly. So they went back home. Later that afternoon, when Bonnie still didn't return to the Creeches, they went back over to the Dages house to see if they had heard from her at any point. I don't know why they were driving over there. Like, I don't know. We did have phones in the 90s.
Wall phones, not cell phones.
We did have phones. You know, we didn't have to send a telegraph via pigeon.
Maybe they just didn't have their phone number.
I don't know. Maybe it was something like that, but I don't know. But this time they weren't so chill about it. Like, they seemed concerned, maybe a little peeved. Maybe that's because Bonnie had gone out late the night before to meet an older guy that she was dating. Mm-hmm. So Bonnie took Jeremy with her to the cash and carry grocery store in Brandon, Florida, the night of April 28th. I feel like it's important to mention that this location, the cash and carry, was on Lithia Street and Pinecrest Street and is now a Walmart. Just in case you remember anything from back in that day and you're like, oh, that used to be something else.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a cash and carry, and if that helps spark your memory. The Creeches were reluctant to tell Bonnie's family that Bonnie had been seeing this guy because he was in his 40s, which was about her mom's age at the time. His name was Terry Christie, whose nickname was Snake. Already don't like the guy. Already don't like the guy.
Did he have a tattoo of a snake too?
I don't know. I don't know why they called him Snake, but probably because he was a snake.
Oh, no.
So Bonnie's parents, when they learned this, they figured she was probably, she was 18. She's 18 and out of the house. They figured she was probably dating somebody, but they were surprised to learn that it was this guy, Snake. Because they knew him. He lived in the neighborhood. And it was at this point that Linda picked up the phone and called police to report Bonnie missing.
Wow.
Bonnie and Jeremy. I mean, that's not normal. She knew it wasn't normal. And she knew there was a problem. So deputies arrived at the Dages home to question Bonnie Lee's family. And the Creeches were also there to determine where Bonnie was believed to have last been seen. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, there was no real sense of urgency to find Bonnie because she was 18. She was out on her own. She was a mom. She had that inheritance. You know, maybe she ran off. Who knows? And she could have come and gone as she pleased. Right. A detective said that they'd take a report and they'd swing by the cash and carry to see if there was any sign of her, or, ask around, see if they could see anything. And they asked her mom for her plate number.
Oh, okay.
For her car to verify the vehicle. Linda couldn't remember the plate number. She was like, So she just gave the physical description, tried to detail it out as best she could. And they went by there, but said they didn't see any van. There's no van there. By the next day, with still no word from police, Linda called them. She was like,
do you have an update?
Yeah, like the person on the phone was like, what's this about?
Oh, no.
There was no missing persons report filed.
What?
That previous day.
Why?
Yeah, why? Is the question. After hours of re-interviewing the Dages family, the Creech family, deputies drove back over to the cash and carry. But this time, they found her van.
What?
Yeah. Linda had rustled up the license plate number, gave it to them, and they found the van. Now, we can't be sure that it wasn't there all along.
Okay.
Maybe the first officer overlooked it.
Or maybe he just didn't
Or maybe he didn't go. Thank you, Elena. But here it is now.
Okay.
2 days after
Stupid.
Bonnie and Jeremy drove to that grocery store. Now, whatever notion police may have had that this 18-year-old girl may have simply left on her own volition, they started to second guess that a little bit. When they finally made entry into the locked van, they saw Jeremy's diaper bag that was inside the van. And inside the bag was Bonnie Lee's wallet with $75 cash in it. Her ID was in there. They didn't find her keys, but they found something else in the car. A baby carrier. Which brings me back to the story of the car I found abandoned this past week. I told you that I slowed down to look, and I saw an infant car seat in the back seat.
Okay.
So
that's alarming.
Of course. I mean, people would be leaving their children in hot cars still.
Yeah.
Still. So I, of course, whipped my car over and ran over to the car and looked inside. And there was just junk in there.
Okay. No baby.
No baby was in there. There was nothing in there. The area around the car kind of smelled weird.
Oh, no.
Like chemically.
Oh.
So I thought that was kind of weird. But
was there junk in the baby carrier?
Yeah, there was like.
You sure there was no baby under the junk?
I'm pretty sure. There was like this glass jar in there. There was like stuff wadded up and sat in there. There wasn't a lot of junk in there. But there was just like crap all over the car. Sorry if that was your car. But anyway, I was just so thankful that there was no baby in there. But anyway, back to Bonnie. They find her abandoned car with a baby carrier in the trunk.
Yeah.
I read one report that the baby carrier was missing.
Oh.
But most reports say that it was in there. Like in the trunk.
In the trunk. So.
Which is even more curious.
That's right. Because
maybe.
Don't just put a carrier, like you have a baby, you're going to put the baby in the carrier and put it in the seat.
That's it.
Okay.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting what a baby carrier is. I assume it to mean an infant car seat.
Right.
Because you generally take it out of the car and take it in with you when you have an infant.
Right.
You generally don't take the infant out. I mean,
some do.
Some do and put it in a baby carrier, like an ergo baby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just strange. So to your point, what parent puts a car seat in the trunk?
Right.
Now, I had to go through the scenarios in my mind because at one point I had 3 in diapers at the same time. And I was a change a diaper in the parking lot type of mom. And you may think it's trashy, but that's just me. At least I had shoes on. I wasn't barefoot. So did Bonnie take her baby, in his carrier around to the back of the van? And I realized the back of a van inside is different than an SUV, which I have. But maybe her seats were folded down, so it was like all flat back there.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Did she do a diaper change and then she got snatched? Or did something happen beforehand and someone just haphazardly as an afterthought threw it back there?
Yeah. Questions.
Questions on questions. none of it felt right to her family, to law enforcement. Like I said, the keys to the van were missing. So it didn't seem like this was a robbery because it feels like they would have taken her wallet.
Right.
They would have probably taken the baby bag. They would have taken the van, right? Not just the keys to the van.
Yeah.
But they probably would have taken the van. Now it's starting to feel like maybe Bonnie and Jeremy might be in danger.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the baby bag was left behind.
He doesn't have the supplies he needs. Oh.
In the early days after their disappearance, there were multiple like searches done, foot, horseback, even an elevator. They got in an elevator. Wow. A helicopter.
Oh, well, a
helicopter is
Same
what
thing.
they got in to search to see if there was any sign of them.
Okay.
Nothing came of any of those searches. Nothing. No pacifier was found. No remnant of clothing. No nothing. This is the point of the story where I would get real deep into the investigation by law enforcement and tell you, like,
what all they went into.
Yeah, what they did. Well, I would, but it doesn't seem like there would be much to talk about. With respect, if there was a thorough investigation, i.e. interrogations, DNA, fingerprinting, etc., nothing has surfaced as a result, and I can't find anything about any evidence being collected from her van. No fibers. Did they look for blood? Did they look for any sort of bodily fluid? Anything?
Surely they would have gotten fingerprints out of, from the tailgate of the van the steering wheel or the door handle.
They weren't too concerned. Like they were like, oh, this is weird.
From the very start.
From the start. And then even though they found her van, they were like, yeah, but there's still nothing to say that
she didn't leave on her own.
Right.
Get over it.
Right.
No.
So I will just tell you about the family's investigation, though, because they weren't just going to sit idly by.
No, ma'am.
While police did nothing, so it seemed. They started with this mysterious older man, Terry Christie, being that this older man was believed to be the last one known with Bonnie. Maybe Bonnie and Jeremy had been with him this whole time. Maybe it was just a big misunderstanding.
Oh.
So Terry Christie was actually a football coach to one of Bonnie's little brothers. And he lived just around the corner from the family. The whole family knew him. He was kind of a creep around town. He was divorced. He hit on women all the time. He just kind of had a sleazy reputation. After speaking with Mrs. Creech, Linda learned even more about Bonnie's extracurriculars, that she'd been seeing this Terry guy for a while, like maybe even a year.
What?
Which would put her at 17.
Oh.
Yeah, when they first started dating or whatever. And apparently this guy had, like I said, a sleazy reputation, but also a reputation for wooing women and taking money from them.
This
so
isn't
many
looking
women
good.
Came forward and said, I loaned him money. He borrowed money.
Oh,
He
no.
never paid it back.
Ew.
Yeah. Well, now police have something to go on, right?
Okay.
So Terry Christie didn't just stand out because he was the last person to be with Bonnie. The more they dug, the more her family realized that there was something darker at play here with this guy. He was having Bonnie go out to parties and like do stuff for him.
What?
Yeah,
No.
like what exactly, they weren't sure, but Linda thinks it could have been sexual things.
And who told them that?
She's just piecing all these things together from like people that are seeing Bonnie at these places, or her friends or the Creech family. She's also thinking maybe she could have been running drugs for this person. Like they never saw her as doing drugs or being a drunk or anything like that. It's just that they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
You know, they're just trying to explore all the, but it just painted a really frightening picture that Terry might have been grooming Bonnie this whole time.
No.
Remember Bonnie's inheritance?
Okay.
Well, Linda learned that her daughter had taken out $15,000 from her bank account right before she went missing.
Oh, no.
And that meeting with Terry the night of the 28th was to give him that money for some bar and grill he wanted to open.
Oh, no.
Now, there's conflicting reports because the only thing police have done in this investigation is interview people. So, with respect. So you have one friend over here saying that that Bonnie was going to go into business with this guy. Or you have this friend over here saying that Bonnie mentioned that she's going to loan him this money. So it's not clear the detail of that.
Okay.
But Bonnie did give him that money that day because that money was not found in her car.
Yeah, that does not look good.
Something else interesting, the lady at the bank told Bonnie's family that Bonnie was very specific about the denominations she wanted the bills in. So she wanted so many 20s, this many 50s, this many hundreds.
That's really strange.
Yeah, it was very strange. But she was just like adamant.
Because if you're just going to open a business with this money,
like what does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've recently had to take, because I've been buying like tile and stuff on the Facebook Marketplace. I've been taking out like $700 out of I've never taken out that much money out of my bank account.
At one time, yeah.
Right. And so they're like, do you want it in hundreds, 20s, 50s? And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been asked that question because I've always only taken out like $20 or $40. So, it is interesting, that little tidbit. Now, that $15,000, like I said, was not found in her van. And they learned that Bonnie had met him, Terry, earlier that day to give him the money.
Okay.
And they were going to meet back up that night. And speaking of these clandestine meetings, these late night meetings usually happened behind or at a grocery store on Bonnie's side of town in Lithia, but not way over in Brandon.
Oh.
It wasn't close. I mean, it's close, but not like, why would she go over there?
Okay.
So her family wonder why the change of venue.
Okay, right.
Like why did he?
Why this time?
Yeah, why this time? Because that was the first time they met at the cash and carry. Could have had something to do with the last time they met at a Winn-Dixie and the manager saw them. Like they were there really, really early in the morning and the manager saw them.
Okay.
And he didn't want to be seen with Bonnie.
Because he's sneaky.
Yeah.
He's a sneaky snake.
Exactly. So maybe he was trying to take her out of town. Okay, so police did speak with Terry Christie, but he wasn't interrogated and he wasn't pressed.
And they took him at his word?
They took him at his word. Exactly. They went to his house and interviewed him immediately after Bonnie and Jeremy's disappearance. It was more of like a, look, we know you were dating this girl. You know, like, just tell us.
Yeah.
And it was like a good old boy.
Oh, come on.
That's what her mom or her sister, I can't remember which one of them said it, but they referred to it as like a good old boy conversation. Like, dude, just tell us.
Yeah. Well,
he denied even knowing her.
Oh my gosh.
At the time.
Huge red flag.
Right. And they were like, well, do you mind if we just come in and look around? He's like, sure. So they just walked through his house. Maybe she was hiding in there.
Oh.
Maybe she was hiding in there. She wasn't there. When they asked to search his vehicle, he said no. So, you know,
let us in the house, but not your vehicle.
Right. Yeah. So, they asked him to come down to the station to be interviewed a few days later. And he brought an attorney. And he said, look, I do know her.
Okay.
But we have never had a relationship. I certainly didn't borrow any money from her.
Right.
The end. Okay. And I won't be speaking with you any further.
Okay.
And that was it.
Wow.
That was it.
And they said, okay, thanks.
They said, all right, well.
Nice chatting with you.
You invoked your rights. That's it. He wasn't interested in finding her, didn't care where she was, didn't care about her son, had no interest in assisting them in any way, shape, or form. So at this time in the investigation, police still kind of thought Bonnie might have run away because they weren't coming up with anything strange. Okay, they had the meeting with Terry Christie, right, but there was nothing amiss in her car. Like, her keys were gone. I mean, so maybe she was coming back to get her van. You know, like, they just...
No, she would have taken her wallet. She would have taken diapers for her baby.
Yeah, well, maybe she had a different diaper bag that she used. Who knows? I don't know how thoroughly they even searched that van.
Right.
But I mentioned that I haven't read any reports on any physical evidence collected.
Right.
However, as time went on, aka the further they got from being able to collect any evidence at all,
okay,
they realized that this probably was foul play. She hadn't touched her bank account.
Oh, okay. So I'm sitting here questioning in my mind, like she'll get to it.
If you're 18 and you decide to hit the road and you've got all that money, you would take more out, wouldn't you?
You wouldn't just leave it there and...
You wouldn't just... Yeah.
Take 15 and go.
The argument could be, well, she took $15,000 and that started her new life. Well, she had much more in the bank, $35,000 more. And
I mean, did they go to Missouri to see if she went to this piece of land?
Don't know, actually. So since that $15,000 withdrawal, she hadn't taken one more cent out of her bank account. And they thought, well, I don't know, maybe she was killed that night. Maybe she was held against her will. They just weren't sure. Now, while Terry Christie remained the only person that obviously had motive and opportunity in the disappearance of Bonnie and Jeremy, I heard someone say, what motive does he have? I think her mom said, what motive does he have? Well, the $15,000. And he didn't want to be seen with Bonnie. She was telling people that they were dating.
Yeah.
She told the Creeches, who knew Terry Christie. So word got back to him that
here's a possibility. She got pregnant again and he didn't want...
There you have it.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's just speculation.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to start rumors.
But there are some other things that can't be ignored with regard to other people in Bonnie's life as well. Now, let me preface this by saying that there has never been anything to suggest the Creeches may have done something to Bonnie and Jeremy to cause them harm or anything like that. In fact, police seemed to have ruled them out pretty quickly after Miss Creech took a polygraph and passed early on. Apparently, Mr. Creech never took a polygraph because he couldn't for some reason. I don't know if it was medication he was on or...
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I don't know, but whatever it was, police felt like, okay, your wife passed. She answered all of our questions. Maybe some of those did include, did you and your husband do whatever?
So, but also a question in my mind that keeps running for me is, did they check her belongings at their house, the room that she was staying?
Don't know.
That seems like it would have been one of the first things you want to do.
Feels like it.
That's why we should be detectives.
Yeah, I know. But there was something that happened right before Bonnie went missing that was a little bit strange and does raise an eyebrow. At least an eyebrow hair.
Okay.
Mr. Creech's sister, Terry McKenzie, another Terry, came to Bonnie a couple months before she disappeared and asked to borrow a few $1,000s.
Oh.
So that her and her boyfriend could buy a truck.
Uh-oh.
Her boyfriend was going to start a business and it was going to be a work truck and whatever. I don't know how close Bonnie and Terry were that Terry felt so emboldened and comfortable
and
to
all
money.
These people just knew that she had thousands of dollars.
Yes. So she had told friends that she had an inheritance, and you know what?
Here they come out the woodworks.
Well, that's the thing. She had just turned 18 in March.
Yeah.
And she went missing in April.
Wow.
So, and you know what? We don't know if Bonnie offered to lend her friends money. Maybe as a 15-year-old, she's like, when I ever need anything, you know, who knows? I mean, I can totally see her making a comment like that. So maybe that's why Terry McKenzie said, well, it's just a couple $1,000s. And Bonnie did consider lending them that money. But when she sought her dad's advice, he was totally against it.
Oh, I'm sure.
The way Linda remembers it is that Mr. Creech's sister showed Bonnie a title for this supposed truck that they were going to buy. But when Bonnie's dad looked at it, the title was either not for the type of vehicle they said.
Oh, no.
Or it was just fake altogether.
Oh, gosh.
It didn't match what they were saying they were buying.
And thank God she asked her dad.
Right. Either way, he was like, it seems like they're just going to take off with your money. They're not buying a truck. That's what it seemed like. Also, why would someone possess the title of a vehicle? I mean, maybe I know nothing about vehicular transactions, but it just seems weird that you would have a title.
Present it like, oh, hey, I'm
like,
getting
this is the
vehicle.
car I'm going to buy, and I have the title already.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. Just seems...
Yeah, that is sketchy.
Weird to me. Today, Bonnie's family believes that everyone is a suspect because they don't know what happened to Bonnie and Jeremy. It could have been absolutely anyone.
Right.
My bet is Terry Christie had something to do with it, but Linda said he may not have been the only one. At one of those secret meetings behind a grocery store, Bonnie met an associate of Terry Christie's that was supposedly going into business with him to this restaurant. To this day, no one knows the identity of that person who she met with along with Terry Christie. So it's believed that maybe he was getting her into sex trafficking and was maybe a part of a larger operation. I think it's crazy that we still don't know who that person was. Like, he's never come forward to say, well, I met with them. That's really suspicious. Isn't it?
That is. I mean, not that somebody would put themselves in the mix.
Right.
If they didn't have to, if they're that kind of shady of a person. But the fact that Terry Christie wasn't pressed to get this name, or where was her last? I just feel like there's more of her last movements that could have been recorded somewhere.
Right. It's interesting that you say that because I listened to a detective give an interview with the Vanished podcast, and he was saying a lot of things like, you know, we didn't have CCTV like we do now. We didn't have data records like we do now. The Dages family has done tons of media and circulated Bonnie and Jeremy's photos everywhere. There's even a age progression photo of Jeremy, what he would look like as an adult. They even met with a psychic out of sheer desperation. I mean, as you do when there's nothing more anyone can help you with.
And what did this person say?
Nothing. I mean, they said places they felt like Bonnie might be, but no amount of publicity or psychic readings have given them any answers. Years after their disappearance, remains of a woman and baby were actually found in a national park, but it wasn't Bonnie and Jeremy.
Oh my goodness. Aww.
They found things here and there on searches, like pieces of clothing, but it was like an older kid's outfit and just nothing relating to Bonnie or Jeremy. Additional searches and excavations in wooded areas have produced nothing. I think the detective said that they did like a 15 to 20 foot radius search with an excavator, and they found nothing. Police were even tipped off that the Creech family might even know something more than they had been saying all this time. Mr. Creech, Mike was his name. I like to call him Prison Mike because he did go to prison. He himself said that he knew more than he was telling.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Were the Creeches close to Terry?
So that is unknown.
Okay.
But they went to visit Mike in jail on an unrelated offense. And Mike said, look, I didn't do anything to her, but I know where their bodies are.
Please do tell.
And he directed them to this area. And after detectives searched the area, they found nothing.
What?
Right. Did they search that area as hard as they searched for Bonnie in the beginning?
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I don't know.
Oh, my Lord.
Linda, Bonnie's mom, and Nancy, one of Bonnie's sisters, have continued their research and networking and doing their own investigation all of these years. I get the impression from the interviews that I've listened to with Linda that she trusts that law enforcement are doing what they say they're doing, which is quote unquote rattling cages and quote unquote leaving no stone unturned.
If they were doing that, I don't feel like we'd be here 32 years later.
But when she says, I just have to trust that they're doing, there's an insecurity in her voice.
I can imagine.
She has no choice but to trust the authorities that we rely on to find our missing loved ones, to bring people to justice. But she's not just going to sit back and do nothing. Like I said, all we know, most of what we know from the investigation was from her.
Right.
Her digging, her asking around. Like, police conducted their own interviews, but she was putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
She was calling the police, to giving them more information that she was learning as it was going on. She's far more gracious than I would be, because I don't think Hillsborough County are doing anything at the moment in this case. They didn't from the beginning, and there's been no development over this past 32 years. I have the utmost respect for police, okay, in general. I don't want their job. I think what they do is, but this particular investigation was never taken seriously from the beginning.
Yeah.
Never. They never collected one shred of evidence from her car that was found abandoned in the place that she was last known to be.
Or even get a warrant for Terry Christie's car.
Or his phone records.
Yeah.
Or his bank records.
Right.
Did he suddenly deposit $15,000 into his account? Did he purchase a new state-of-the-art CD player system after he came into this $15,000? What was his spending like?
Right.
Do you know? Are you listening? Do you remember this time period? And maybe he suddenly had all this money to spend. He went on a vacation. Like what?
Right.
He certainly didn't open a restaurant.
Right.
So, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office say they have not forgotten about the young mother and her little boy.
They may not have forgotten about them.
They may not have forgotten, but here's the thing. I think egg on their face. And it's not entirely the investigators that are there now fault.
Right.
I think a lot of mistakes, and the ball wasn't just dropped back then. It was drop kicked. Okay.
Yeah.
The
carelessly.
They just have files and files of interviews. They didn't pull surveillance from the bank. What about the grocery store? In the 90s, wouldn't they have had CCTV? Or at least stills? Or something? They didn't pull any of that. So I don't want to hear we didn't have data. We didn't have surveillance like we do now. We didn't have cell phones. How many cases have we gone through where they didn't even have any technology?
Right.
And they tracked someone down in a different country.
There's been so many.
Don't give me that.
Right.
A little bit of effort goes a long way.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they were told that there was a meeting behind this grocery store. Did you go behind this grocery store? Did you look around the dumpster area to see if there's any?
Right. Were you unhoused at that time and maybe you saw some people back there that was kind of weird and you remember that? Maybe you were just a kid in 1993 and you remember that Walmart used to be something else. I can't remember what it was. I think I was there back then and I saw something weird.
Right.
Maybe you saw something that stuck out to you all these years. Maybe you remember a family story about your grandpa having a young girlfriend, or he suddenly found himself with $15,000.
Right.
It's been over 30 years since Bonnie and her son were last seen. So where are they? I'm serious.
I know.
Like, it's time to come forward. It's time to come forward. A lot of time has passed. If you know something,
bring them home. I mean,
say something. If you know something and you think that the police aren't really investigating, tell someone else.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you feel
tell everybody.
If you're Mike Creech and you do have more information and you don't feel like they searched that place and you do know where their bodies are.
Right. If they come back and they say, oh, she wasn't where you said that she was, like, what would your response be?
Yeah, I don't know.
She should have been there.
And listen, if you are in law enforcement or know someone in law enforcement in Hillsborough County, I think after 30 some odd years, it might be time to release additional information to the public. I understand the importance of keeping details of an investigation close to the vest. Like,
right.
I understand that. But maybe more information could be just the thing that the public needs to connect one last dot or one memory. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you have any information about what happened to Bonnie Lee Dages and her son Jeremy Dages, please call the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. I called that number and tried to speak with a detective on the case, and they wouldn't speak with me. So if you do know something and you call this number, make sure you tell them I have important information about a missing person. They didn't want to talk to someone who's researching the case.
Okay.
This information...
Because why would they want help?
Right. Well, why are you researching the case? Like, why are you interested? I'll list all this information in the show notes. Now, even though he'd be 32 today, like I said, there is that age progression of Jeremy, but it's what he would look like as a 23-year-old. I think it's worth looking at anyways and posting because 23 is an adult. Okay. So he may have like a beard now, or he may look a little bit older, but I think seeing him as an adult, like,
or if you saw him when he was 23 and be like, oh, I've seen him before.
Exactly. Is he still out there somewhere? Was something done to her and not him?
He was taken and given to someone else.
Maybe. If someone gave me a baby when I was trying so hard to have a baby, I would be...
Hey, it happens.
I would take it and run.
It has happened.
I've linked the Doe Network profile in the show notes as well, and I've put up all her case numbers in the show notes, like NamUs, NCIC, the police department, all of that. So if you have any information, if you remember anything, please come forward. Like, the pain of losing a child, the hurt that is caused when someone is missing out of your life and you don't even know what happened to them.
You have no answers.
It never goes away.
Right.
So give this family some closure, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to light. I mean, I know you said that they've really put it in the media and all that, but this is the first time I'm hearing about it. So surely not everybody has heard about this case. So
yeah, I was surprised at how many interviews like her mom has given. I mean, she will talk to anyone. I actually reached out to her dad, Bonnie's dad, and her best friend, but I didn't hear back from them. I just kind of wanted to know from their perspective, because I had heard her mom's side, and I just wanted to see if other people in her circle and her family were feeling like nothing was being done.
Right.
Because I just think her mom, Linda, is just such a pure-hearted, like just really giving the benefit of the doubt and just really trusting, because she has no other choice.
Right. Because there's only so much she can do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's good information to have. I can't imagine being in their position, but well, thank you for telling us, and I pray that they are found safe.
Oh, wouldn't that be the greatest?
Even just that her family gets closure. That's so sad. But thank you for telling us, and that was great. Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Cousins on Crime. Get connected with us by becoming a free member on our Patreon. Or for just $5 a month, you'll have access to bonus episodes, discussion groups, and much more. If you can't afford $5 a month, we get it. Inflation, am I right? Please consider leaving us a positive review and rating wherever you listen.
And don't forget merch. Support our podcast and show the love by sporting t-shirts with our latest designs, or grab an evidence bag to keep the chain of custody for all your valuables. Don't forget to follow our show on your favorite streaming app so you never miss an episode, and get photos and updates on our Instagram at Cousins on Crime Podcast or our Cousins on Crime Facebook page. Have a case suggestion? Email us at cousinsoncrime@gmail.com.